Harold Taylor, CSP, author of 11 books and hundreds of articles on the topic of time and life management, is president of Harold Taylor Time Consultants Incorporated, with offices in Toronto, Ontario, and St. Petersburg, Florida. Here, he presents a seminar to over 1,500 members of the Peak Performers Network at the Toronto Convention Centre. We join him as he uses himself as an example of how we squander time.
As you can see, I have a desk that's rather cluttered. Those people, at least who are close up, can see I have a cluttered desk. I was one of those individuals who figured that anybody who had a neat, tidy desk never really experienced the joy of finding something they once thought was lost. I mean, we have to have some small pleasures in life. So I had a desk with paperwork that you wouldn't believe. I had my phone on my desk, worst place for a phone, but that's where it was, my in basket on my desk. I had my desk backed up against the wall so I could use window ledges to pile more piles of paper. And I had a 2x4, reinforced 2x4, actually underneath the desk, so it'll hold a lot on a good day as well, about 1.5 tons. And I was working away on what I thought were my priorities, which whatever the boss gave me to do. And I was working on it, and all of a sudden, somebody walks into my office or up to my desk, because sometimes they didn't have an office, and they throw something in my in basket. Now, I had an irresistible urge to take a quick peek to see what that was. Now, regardless of how important that task was, I mean, how can resist, right? So I pick it up and I look at it, and I find, oh my goodness, that's great, it's not urgent. I mean, sure, it's important, but it's not due for another week or two. So I throw it back in. And then I say, now where was I? And I have to reread the paragraph I've already written. And then I get the creative juices start to flow, get something productive down, all of a sudden somebody else walks in and throws something in there. And I say, what's that? And I pick that up, and I look at that, and I throw it back in. Now, you see, I have no intention of doing anything with these things in the first place. I just check and make sure they're not a letter bomb. Yeah, looks pretty safe, so I throw it back in again. And I go back to work. Now, what I am really doing is checking it out to see whether it's urgent, as I mentioned. Because if it's urgent, that's a different story. I'll run with that right away. Oh my gosh, look at this thing. I better get on this right away. I'll miss my coffee break this afternoon, and away I go. But if it's only important, it just relates to our goals, new product folder, sales calls, proposals, propositions, things like that. Well, that's not due for another 2 weeks. I'll throw it back in until it becomes urgent as well. Why? Well, because I work better under stress. Well, I found out later in the hospital you don't work better under stress, you work faster under stress. There's a difference. If I threw that back in, how do I know when that becomes urgent then? Well, I have people helping me. Because no sooner am I halfway through my project here, a few days later, a phone rings, I pick it up. And here's somebody following up. Harold, I sent you a memo about 3 weeks ago. Did you not get that memo? And I said, oh yeah, I got that, and I'm shuffling through here looking for it now. And I'm stalling for time. I say, wasn't that just last week you sent me, Ralph? He says, oh no, I sent you that at least 2 weeks ago. I finally can negotiate on these calls. I could have got this guy down a week and a half at that time. But I'm too busy. Now, as I'm looking, what do I see? I see things that were only important before, but have now become urgent in the interim. Oh my gosh, there's that thing I have to have for the meeting this afternoon. Oh, there's that thing Betty was looking for. Oh, here's that thing Ralph was after this afternoon. And I'm pulling all these other things, the urgent items now, out into the surface where they can agitate my ulcers. Not that I'll have time to do them, but don't leave them buried out of sight, out of mind. And who wants to lead a peaceful day? Eventually I find the letter he's looking for. And I say, oh yes, I've got your memo here. In fact, I was just about to reply to that. I lie. And he says, well, I didn't mention in the letter, Harold, could you also send me 50 folders then, indicating the new products you're now distributing? I say, oh yeah, I know the ones you mean. You want 50 of those, do you? And now what I'm doing, folks, is searching through my clutter for my scratch pad, which I can't find among all this clutter. And yes, I was using little scratch pads and cubes, silly little things. I felt obligated to use them because I got them free from suppliers and vendors. A lot of them actually said from the desk of, as if desks could write letters. And I was writing notes on these scraps of paper that are caught up in paper clips or in my pocket, my dressing room table at home. I had thousands of these silly to-do lists. But of course I couldn't find the scratch pad fast enough, didn't want to hold this person up, so I would do the next best thing. Guess what? Rely on my memory. Now, I don't know about you folks, but I always had a memory like a steel trap. I mean, who's going to forget to send out 50 folders from the time they hang up? So I say, no problem, Ralph. I'll send you those folders just as soon as I get off the phone. But only in seminars like this does one work up here in isolation. If you were back at the shop with this funny little thing in your ear, and you're sitting at your desk, and somebody's talking to you. Now, you yourself are not talking, you're not writing, therefore, visibly to anybody else coming in on you, you're not doing anything. And they immediately spot this other direct channel of the brain here. You see, folks have done their research. They know we've got two brains. Only one's being utilized. So they start talking to this one. Now, somebody's talking here, but there's a conversation going on in here. As if that's not bad enough, this intruder, recognizing my left ear must be twitching for some reason or other, actually whispers so as not to bother me. I'm straining to hear what he's saying. I'm hearing half of 2 conversations. I finally get off the phone, give my attention to Sam, who just burst in. We just get involved in our conversation, and the steady phone rings again. Urgent. Oops, excuse me. Sorry about that, Sam. Excuse me. No, don't you leave. I want to waste your time, too. Hello. Now, I got a guy held in abeyance there. That'll solve his productivity problem for a few minutes, I'll tell you. And I got a totally new conversation going in here. Now, my goal is not to listen intently or try to memorize what this person's saying. Are you kidding? My goal is get off the phone fast so I can resume my conversation with Sam. And that's when I do all the unrealistic commitments. Oh, I'll do the best we can. Yeah, that's no, I can get that done. It's about a 6-week job. We'll do it tomorrow. Yeah, okay, thanks very much. Yeah, sorry about that. What were you saying, Sam? And I go back to Sam until, of course, the phone rings again, and I'm back on the phone. Now, I don't know how your mind works. Maybe you do after this evening session with Blaine. But I know exactly how my mind worked. As newer information going in here, it pushed the older information out here. Right? And quite frankly, I forgot. And because I forgot what I do, I generated for myself another follow-up call. And this person, another week or 2 later, was really irate. Harold, did you not send out those folders? Remember you promised me a week and a half ago you're going to put them in the mail that morning. And now I thank God for poor mail delivery in this country. You didn't get those yet? That's disgusting. I just got my Christmas cards the other day. Yeah. Tell you what I'll do. I'll throw another 50 in the mail. You keep the whole 100. Yeah. Now, oh, you do the same thing, do you? Yeah. Well, I might even tell the truth during a weak moment. But what I do as a result of that call is interrupt myself from my task again and run off and get those silly, trivial 50 folders. Because can you imagine the embarrassment and humiliation if this person called back a 3rd time and I hadn't sent them out? Now, these things aren't trivial to the person requesting them, but they're trivial when you compare them to what I'm interrupting myself from. You see, but I'm caught up in this tyranny of the urgent. Just look for a minute what I'm doing. I'm shuffling papers, searching for things, interrupting myself, interrupting others. How do I interrupt others? Oh, well, because when I do get to my task, something invariably pops into my mind unrelated to that task. And I got to do something with that right before I forget. Oh, my gosh, just thought of something. Hello, Joan? Yeah, Harold, sorry to bother you again. I just realized something else. Now, what was this person called Joan doing at the precise moment that I interrupted her? Well, who cares? Right? I mean, that's what telephones are for. Wouldn't have the nerve to walk up to her desk and say, would you do me a favor? She'd be typing a letter, talking to a sales rep, closing the door with left foot. She looks kind of busy, right? So I got to pounce on her later. And you see, with a phone, what you don't know don't hurt you. Well, was I interrupting Gary and Joan and Sue and Ralph and Tom and once or twice a day? Are you kidding? I interrupt them 4 or 5, 6 times a day each. Because I can't help it. That's the way my mind works. And I'm interrupting people. I'm shuffling papers. I'm searching for things. I have no set time to do my mail. I had my phone on my desk just to make sure I didn't miss anybody who came in. You see, so I could carry on 2 conversations at the same time. It was terrible. Even the in-basket on your desk is terrible because when people come in, they see you sitting there, they hand it to you. They say, Harold, this letter is self-explanatory. And then you stay for 15 minutes to explain it. And I got interruptions I hadn't counted on. And well, all I know is, hey, I can't seem to get the work done that I want to get done in the 8 or 9 hours that I want to put in. So I thought, I know what I'll do. I'll come in earlier, before the phones start ringing, before the other employees are there to bother me. In other words, here's the thinking. If I cannot get done what I want to get done in 8 or 9 hours, then why not extend this current inefficiency to cover longer periods of time? Now, that made so much sense to me. So I came in at 8 o'clock and 7 o'clock and 6:15, and I'll tell you something, the phones never stop ringing. They're insomniacs all over the country phoning at all hours of the day and night. Forget about time zones, they just can't sleep. And like an idiot, I'm picking up that phone. Not only am I picking up my phone, I am now leapfrogging over 3 desks to get somebody else's telephone. If they're not in yet, they're home sleeping, those fools. They'll never get ahead, and I'm running ragged. Now, I remember one of my jobs at American Standard. I was running around the office like crazy, picking up phones. Dave, the manufacturing manager, came in and said, Harold, what are you doing? I said, Dave, you won't believe this office. The phones are ringing from 6 o'clock in the morning. Now, he knew we didn't open until 9. So he asked me, well, why are you answering them? I said, well, I'm the only one here. He says, what are you doing here? I said, it's the only time I get any work done. Did you get any work done? I said, not with these telephones. He must have stared at me for a minute and a half. He said, Harold, one of us is crazy. 8 years later, I found out it was me. You see, the phones are programmed to ring. But who programmed me to respond? Because, well, I'd respond too. That could be emergency, could be a crisis, could be a customer, could be a chaos at home. Garbage, 99.9% of the time, could be a wrong number. I mean, what if I had been in the parking lot and hadn't heard the phone? Would it be the end of the world? Of course not. And if that's the reason, how do you rationalize this? Here I am at home. Nothing to do with the office. I'm coming home at night, going to put my key in the front door because there's no one home. But before I get my key in the lock, I hear my house phone ring. Now, I don't know about you folks. For me, there's nothing more traumatic than having a locked door between me and a ringing telephone. You talk about goals. I had an all-encompassing goal. Get the phone at all cost, no matter who you have to kill to get there. I'm trying to put my garage key in the front door. Never tried that before, but you do funny things when you're under stress. I actually broke a screen door. You have superhuman strength when you're under stress. The adrenaline flows 100 times faster. I thought the thing was just stuck. It was latched. I went boom right through. Now, as I went through, I realized I'd broken it because I know the sound of a breaking door, right? But what frightened me about myself was when I thought about it later, at the time, I didn't care. I mean, who cares about a broken door when it's a phone ringing? You do not even feel pain when you're under stress. I slashed my chin on that coffee table. You know that stupid glass edge? I didn't feel a thing. Oh, I heard the sound of ripping flesh, but I felt nothing. Hello, hello? But I got him before they hung up. That's what life is all about, right? And they said, hello? Do you get the Globe and Mail? That's when I felt the pain. And I wondered where all that mud came from on the carpet. And I saw a door hanging from one hinge. I thought, what am I doing to myself? But I was the same way in the office. I could get no more done in the mornings than I could during the day. So what choice did I have but to work into the evenings? And if you live and work in Toronto, I'm telling you, especially if you work in Toronto and live up in the suburbs, it's fantastic. Because you go up there at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock, you know what the Don Valley Parkway is right? But I'll tell you, you go up there at 9 o'clock, 9:30 at night, and that traffic's moving along quite smoothly. Hardly any tie-ups at all, very few accidents. I mean, it's peaceful, you're alone, your moon is high in the sky, you're able to sit back, relax, and reflect on all the things you hadn't got accomplished that day. It was kind of neat until I got home. Now, remember, of course, at that time I had a wife and 4 kids. 5, I forgot about Jason. 5 kids. But you see, I had married the wrong woman anyway because, well, she didn't understand this North American work ethic. That you have to make certain sacrifices during the initial stages of your career in order to become successful. Sacrifices such as your family, your friends, your health, your self-respect. And instead of being supportive of me and my efforts, she'd make these caustic remarks when I came in. Says, oh, to what do you owe the pleasure of your company tonight, Harold? You know? Do you plan to spend the whole weekend with us? Ooh, I got so upset. I said, you think I'm working and slaving 10, 12 hours a day, 7 days a week because I like to work? I mean, I'm doing all this for you and the kids. And she said, are you kidding? We haven't had a decent vacation together as a family for over 4 years. I said, I realize that. As soon as we go to the peak period, another 10, 12 years, we'll have a vacation like you wouldn't believe. Well, she either didn't believe it or got tired of waiting for it because she walked out, took 4 kids with her, overlooked little Jason because he was too small. I became a single parent, had a case of bleeding ulcers, spent 3 weeks in total in North York General Hospital, getting blood transfusions. My business on the verge of bankruptcy. Didn't actually go bankrupt, though, because I didn't know how to file. But I was rather devastated. And I thought, gee, maybe there's something wrong with me.